but I feel like this team really has showcased really high ceilings, so I think there's a lot that we could look forward to in the future and in this third game.
Yeah, I agree. I actually, it's sort of bad parenting to say you've got potential, but I completely understand what you're talking about, because we can see exactly what happens when they do get their ducks in a row. And maybe the ducks in a row is this stage of it as we get into Champion Select for the final game of the day. We'll see whether DRX on red side are going to do better this time around than what they were able to put forward in game number 1. As once again, the Lucian going to be the first ban out of Harmala.
Indeed, Camille taken away. There's the Aphelios ban. So this is a first ban phase that's kind of evolved as the series has gone on, which you love to see. Talia getting taken away too.
Yeah. So Talia got through in game number 1. That was a big problem. Aphelios got through in game number 2, and that was a big problem. And the Graves is even going to get the respect out of Harmwell Life. Thankfully, the flexibility of blue side allowing them to ban this away. But Akali's possibly going to get through. We've got a lot of other junglers that are going to be left available. The Pantheon sort of needs to be banned right here, unless DRX are okay with it getting through. So this is a tough one for DRX, and Akali is going to.
I actually would have taken away the Pantheon here instead. And now it gets insta-locked, but this has been, I think, the biggest weak point of DRX in this series is ironically, because he is the veteran and the one who's just come back from Worlds, and perhaps the most famous player DRX has this year in Pioshik, but he has kind of been following Arthur. Arthur has been dictating the pace of the game, dictating the pace of the jungle, and he will be able to pick up this Nidalee here, which is certainly a strong pick. If that's what he wants to go for, he can, of course, wait until later. Hopefully don't see Lee Sin again. Lilia also can just be a farm jungle they go for, but Pantheon basically just gives you control of the mid lane, it feels like, every single time. He's a semi-global, he's got a pretty easy to execute stun, and Pantheon has seen so much more success than Akali has when left through the draft. Akali feels like something that, even though she's very terrifying, you don't want to leave open, you have to draft around, whereas Pantheon feels pretty good with anything, and I'm scared about losing control of the jungle here for DRX.
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. They're going to augment this potentially with a Samira pickup. Deft actually had some good times on the champion in Kesper Cup, if my memory is serving me okay. But Pioshik on the Nidalee is making me feel like Harmwell Life are going to look at a Renekton at this spot. Of course, Morgan was basically a Renekton Aatrox 2-trick when he was over with WE in China. But we'll see what they do actually decide to do. I think denying Renekton Nidalee is something worth thinking about.
I think so too.
At least here for Hanwha.
I think that's a really strong pick in this rotation, but they're going to take the Alistar instead, just to guarantee a really safe bot lane.
Yep, denying the Alistar Kai'Sa instead. A couple of duos that DRX could have gone into there. But now, I mean, Renekton does stand out, but DRX could do basically what they like. Maybe even try to secure a bottom lane that they're happy with, because that one's face up on the side of Hanwha Life.
Go down the set path here, which has been kind of up and down. Currently 3-2 in the LCK as a support. Third highest behind Alistar and Thresh. Surprisingly, when you think about it, it always still feels like, even though he's been seen so much, he still feels very niche, because there is such a standard set by that Alistar, by Leona, even in recent times. So now the question becomes, now that the support's locked up here for DRX, the bot lane is set, where is the top lane priority going to be? The Twisted Fate gets taken away, which kind of leads you to believe that they're not going to go down that Renekton path necessarily.
Yeah, well, we'll see where it's actually going to go. As Renekton,
away,
I think, needs to be banned, and they are going to take that one away. But do you just get rid of Camille, just try and take away some of these, Nidalee combo champions? Or are you going to try and spread your bans out so that Solka doesn't have full comfort there in the mid lane? Because, Orianna going to be available, all that sort of stuff. So red side, at this stage of the draft, should be feeling okay. And Hanwha Life just trying to figure out exactly what they want to do with this Pantheon situation.
Kassadin
taken away from Chovy.
That's a pretty bold statement. To think that Chovy would potentially play Kassadin in this game, I don't think that Unless, again, there's always the floating scrim data out and information we don't know that we can't see with our naked eyes, but it's kind of an interesting ban. I really do wonder, though, where does this top lane go for DRX? Because based on the Twisted Fate ban, I didn't think they were necessarily going to go down the Renekton path. It almost feels like they want to do something a little bit slower, and that might lead towards even a Gnar, for example. I know it's going to make everyone roll their eyes because of how he's played recently, but I could see it happening here for some of those late game team fights. Scale up with the Kai'Sa, and look for big stuns, objective control in the late game. The Orianna lends into this as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the Orianna does make a lot of sense, and I think giving King and the respect on the Gragas is a good one. But this might be the pick for the mid lane, as the Galio is locked in, and in fact it is. It's not like it's going to be heading top lane, and there's an Alistar in support. So this is what Chovy has absolutely turned games around on. And so something that he can have all of that extra augmentation for the Pantheon. So a global composition being set up here from Harmwell Life, and Morgan is heading towards the Gnar. So let's see whether this is going to be the Korean Gnar, or whether, like Khan, Morgan's going to be able to reach into that LPL experience and bring out the Chinese.
We're going to see the Gangplank response again, it looks like, here for Kingen. And this is very terrifying when you think about what a roaming Nidalee can do. If Gangplank gets ahead early, how much that lane can snowball, how relevant Gangplank becomes in the extreme, supreme late game. That based on these two compositions, I think we are going to head. Orianna's a pretty safe mage for the mid lane, and Galio's not going to be able to all-in her or play aggressively with the Pantheon. So the Pantheon, even though it was highly prioritized, its role here becomes kind of weird. It's semi-global, but you're not going to be roaming super hard to the top lane to try to gank the Gangplank, you don't think, with the Gnar matchup here. So it's a strong jungle pick, top tier, perma-banned in most cases, but when the draft is completed, when it's all said and done, I don't know if the Pantheon ends up being insanely strong here.
Well, we'll just have to see how Arthur is going to be able to make his way around this map, because also I don't think it's going to clear as fast as Pyoshik's Nidalee as well. So likely that DRX might be able to work on getting themselves some control of these lanes. Like you say, Galio not necessarily a priority champion in the early game in comparison to that of an Orianna that has, you know, a lot of reputation when it comes to lane control. Chovy in general as a player, very good at lane control, but maybe in this matchup it's going to be enough for Solka to be able to really provide space for Pyoshik early. And then Gangplank and Kai'Sa and Orianna all going to scale beautifully as this game goes on. Draft-wise, this looks way better for DRX than the first time that they were on red side.
I completely agree with you. I think as long as they don't have any big missteps in the early game, if they can play it safe, they can run that extra farm with Nidalee, make sure Kingan's okay in the top lane, perhaps even put a lot of resources towards them, they're going to be in good shape.
Damn right. Let's do it. Let's hop onto the Rift for game number 3, the final game of the night here for day 4 of LCK 2021. Chovy, a lot on his shoulders here. We know what he's capable of. We remember that big play that he had against Gen G to get themselves into such a great position last summer, but that was a long time ago. It's very cold now, and we'll see whether it's going to once again be a repeat of itself.
It is very cold, Atlas. I closed my window after last year, like 2 games ago. It's -7 outside now. It's getting a little chilly. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, I think I should probably have closed mine as well, because I hadn't realized that I was getting chilly. And now that you say that, it's probably why. Damn.
Yeah.
All right. No, I'm not going to leave you by yourself, though, so I'll close that after the match.
Close it if we have a pause, you know.
Morgan has the most adorable skin. He has the most adorable skin, so maybe this is going to mean that the Gnar's going to be better this game.
Fingers crossed. Was the last pick, Gangplank here, really does end up being a nice response. It's not a free win, it's not an outright crushing win, it's not like the Camille that, you know, obviously was banned, but would have been ideal if in a blind pick scenario if you knew the Gnar was going to be the opponent. But this can be something that snowballs out of control. This can be something that becomes the supreme late game team fighting damage output that you expect from Gangplank, plus the utility of his cannon barrage. And I do want to keep a close eye on this Pantheon. I think the observers are showcasing it to us because it's just so rare. We've only seen it once so far in the LCK.
Yeah, so rare because it never gets into a draft. Absolutely.
So we'll see what he ends up doing because, you know, you can be aggressive with the gank or with the with the ganks. I wanted to say gangplank there.
Gangplank.
But oftentimes the Pantheon just allows an oppressive mid laner to be even more aggressive and go for more aggressive trades because he can just come in and help out, use his you know, passive global ability, I guess you could call it, his ability to roam super hard to make sure the mid laner is always safe and can look for aggressive trades. That's how it's played a lot in LPL, but in this game it's a Galio mid, so I mean, what are you really hoping for here in that regard? Not a whole lot. You're gonna have to look for priority elsewhere.
The thing that I really like is the fact that Solka has picked up the cleanse this time around. A lot of CC with the Galio and the Pantheon especially. So wanting to make sure that he's not going to get taunted up and stunned and taken down. He's not going to have the teleport to get back to lane and things like that, get around the map, but he will still be a lot safer as now we've got a very aggressive early gank. And Becca has to flash already, but Becca is set and you're supposed to flash at level 1, so he wasn't supposed to have that summoner spell anyway.
Meanwhile, this top matchup is going towards the worst case scenario style, unfortunately for Morgan.
Yeah.
Got subbed in for this.
I had to blind pick a Gnar again as
boy.
Pyoshik's like, oh, he sees the food underneath the turret. Does avoid the spear very nicely as Morgan's going to survive. Now Chovy looking for it. He will get onto King in here as the Justice Punch will land, but it's still a 1v2. And Chovy does need to be very careful. Has to flash actually to get to safety. And Kingin holds on to his. So maybe a little bit of an overstep there from Chovy's Galio as that facebreaker is beautiful, but once again the Pantheon's coming down. Def trying to stay alive, but he's not going to be able to. Stun comes in, they trade 1 for 1, but that is not what Humble Life wanted.
The first blood gold going over here unfortunately to Becca, but still the assist gold going to go over to Bao. It's going to be pretty helpful for him. 2 summoner spells burned for Chovy in the teleport and the flash to try to trade it back. And you know, if you look back at that fight, which we probably will, it begs the question if he should have just committed in anyways to try to secure the kill, because it was really close. And he loses both for nothing, unfortunately. He survives, which is, you know, the saving grace of it all, because if he had committed in and failed and died, which, again, it was really close. It'd be a pretty terrible situation, but this is exactly what Kingin wants in the top lane, is just all of the love, all of the attention that he's getting right now from Pyoshik, and that is forcing responses from Chovy. Yeah,
and you can see that it's not looking very much better now that Morgan's come back to the lane, especially with a Sheen now on top of Kingin. I think one of the worst things for this matchup was the fact that Sheen now comes in so much earlier, and Kingin's going to be very, very frightening. Vista is going to jump on over and finds himself a control ward. Becca is in position, though, as Solka just throws him a cheeky auto attack. And
Sheen is just so nasty.
Full control.
You know, at this stage.
Yeah.
It is going to be a hard time, as I think we're going to watch the spot lane again instead. Pantheon coming in for the roam, so was not at the top side, did not give that priority. Becca's big haymaker here, plus the ignite, going to secure the kill. Unfortunately for him, he's not able to get out. But he's able to get that first blood away. So, fairly slightly better trade.
Ooh.
And
the passive? Easy. Yeah, that's another example of this matchup just being so awful for the Gnar. And I think that maybe Morgan should have understood that that was going to happen, but also maybe the calculation just too good there from Kingin.
Yeah, the composition for Humble Life, the more I look at it, and the more I think about how it was put together, it feels like 5 pieces that don't make up the same puzzle, right? I mean, obviously the bot duo is fine, and that's what they got early on in the draft, and that makes sense, and that's still fine in a vacuum, but when you pair it with the early picked jungle with the Pantheon, the early Pantheon pick, which, again, usually is paired with the mid laner a lot to be aggressive, which doesn't work out in this case because they picked the Galio. The Gnar pick that comes in late, which had a counter pick available, they grabbed the Gangplank. it feels like Hanwha Life Esports draft was just kind of doomed from the start in a lot of ways.
I felt like it was doomed from the Nah pick, right? Because like this then becomes possible.
Yeah.
And it's an obvious play, right? Like if you've played top lane, you've played against a Gangplank that can just do this, right? And Morgan didn't have his flash and therefore was very susceptible to that kind of situation. But it meant that he was getting zoned out of experience until he was dead. You know, it's just not what you want to see. As bottom lane, I mean, at least that is going okay here for Hanwha. You can see Deft is very even on gold against Bao. And in the jungle, Pantheon is doing an okay job as well with his Serrated Dirt already completed. Facebreaker onto Vista here towards the bottom side. Level 4 for Becca, unfortunately. A lot of value there from Deft, but unfortunately for Vista, is just going to get smacked down. Gangplank ulti comes in as Arthur is going to turn up. And this is just going to be a big push towards this bottom side. And Hanwha Life might need to be careful. This could be a dive as Chovy, he's going to try and roam down. But not going to be required as the pressure from DRX is just mounting and mounting.
This is going to be the Drake coming in, the Ocean Drake here. So nothing amazing. It was the comp that DRX has. I mean, I guess it could be good for Becca, but going to be pushing the objective advantage into their favor is even the Herald can't be taken counter-wise because they know that Arthur's on the bot side of the map. So just all of the objective priority goes to DRX, and it's a catch-22 problem for Arthur because it feels like Arthur shouldn't be babysitting the bot lane with this pick. He should be helping the top lane because that's where they're struggling. But it's just, it feels like the matchup is so bad that he's not going to get anything done there. He's just going to be wasting rotations if he tries to be aggressive. I'm going to watch this fight again. Vista getting caught. And then, unfortunately, Arthur is kind of a ways away. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like this, unfortunately, this Pantheon pick, which is so high tier, just isn't getting anything done in this game.
It's almost like it was a trap. It's like DRX had planned for it, and I really like that. You know, that's sometimes it comes across as a bit of a trap in the draft where it's like, wow, Hanwha Life managed to get this really coveted pick by, you know, being able to draw out these bans. But in this case, it's looking like it was a bit of a problem as the taunt comes in and Chovy is just going to be dead. Flashes, and I don't think he needed to. And Vista just watches on. Nothing that they could do. Not enough damage, no nothing. No Grand Skyfall or anything like that, as it's just Deft being able to pick up some turret plates as their only icing on this pretty ugly cake.
I mean, that is the saving grace for Hanwha Life at the moment. See how long it lasts, because he is 20 CS up. He's going to get a ton of plates gold. And also, they don't have vision of this. Dive in here.
Well, there's the flash headbutt Pove. And Vista's not going to be able to find Pyoshik, and now they're the ones trapped in the pit. Kingin's going to come up over the top, doesn't have Cannon Barrage, as Vista's just dead. He's in the back of the pit now, nothing he can really do. Heroic Entrance going to try and save him, and actually Hanwha are going to turn it around. There's the showstopper over the wall. Vista will be taken down, but Deft says no. Sulka's going to go down, and now Hanwha Life looking much better.
This is actually a really nice fight for them. They needed it so desperately, too. I like that they doubled down on it instead of just walking away and leaving Vista to his own devices after he did flash in aggressively. So it ends up being a pretty good turnaround. So we're going to go back a little bit further and watch this pick onto Chovy with the Shockwave, excuse me. And Vista, unfortunately, just nothing he can do there. But this gets really interesting. Yeah. They aggressively blast in. Vista goes into the pit super hard, super early, super fast, and Pyoshik is able to escape. And then as we fast forward, Vista looks like he's in a really terrible spot, but look at Arthur come forward. You see Chovy engage in as well. Big punch, and then Vista is like, he looks like he's trying to get more to help Deft out there, but he does end up dying. But at the end of the day, they're able to get the Rift Herald, and they're able to win their first team fight here pretty handily.
Yeah, I really liked it. Timing was good too. It was right when Arthur's Eclipse was just completed. And as you can see, it's going to pull the gold all the way back to basically even. Under 1,000 here at 11 minutes. Ain't bad whatsoever. So Chovy coming in with the heroic entrance was absolutely well named in this particular moment. And that may have saved his laning experience as well, as he's actually ahead by 1 as the lane is going to reset. So Chovy just manages to find farm, even in the worst of situations. Not bad at all, as Arthur has actually got the most gold in the game thus far. 3-0-1, really reaping the benefits of that last fight. As, okay, we've got a big gank coming in, but both of the supports are going to be here. There's the headbutt. Bit of a trade of positions as Grand Skyfall comes down. Becker is going to be going, but Vista, very close to death as well, will survive this time around.
Yeah, that's pretty aggressive there from HLE Esports. Ends up working out really well. Becca picked because of his positioning, and you know, you could see that when this comp works together around the Pantheon, things work really well for HLE Esports in terms of the roaming game. And we're finally starting to see that actually come into effect as lanes have opened up a little bit, because it's not just safe bot lane, safe mid lane, and top lane is terrible. Now that they've won team fight, they can get another pick. They can try to push for this Rift Herald to strike twice. Not going to happen, I don't think, but close. And you can see how well HLE Esports' comp can fight in skirmishes, and how well they can fight, for example, inside of the Rift Herald pit, where you could see big ults from Chovy, big taunts, and some kind of wombo combos. I feel like the late game, though, definitely DRX favored still. We have to keep restating that.
Yeah, that's true. And I mean, as far as circles on the ground are concerned, Harmor Life in that fight had theirs, right? There was no cannon barrage, and that's why it was so difficult. As we're going to check this one out once again, Vista going for the big play. A bit of a positional change there, as Grand Skyfall really was what allowed this to happen, as Val just could not join the fight.
Nice little Hex Flash over the wall there from Vista, is, you know, making the plays happen where he can. He's been a little bit up and down this series.
Yes, I would say so. But I like that he keeps making plays. You know, sometimes, you know, you can have a few fails and then you're like, well, I'm just not going to do anything. Which is, I guess, how a lot of people have experienced solo queue. But Vista, he's like, nah, man, I'm going in. You guys can follow if you want, but this is what I'm doing. They are able to grab themselves a Drake. Harmor Life Esports now with an opportunity to grab themselves 3 mountains. DRX as well. But the Infernal definitely going to feel really good. But Kingen is also feeling very good on this gangplank.
Yeah.
Taking down the turret by himself as Pyoshik sort of set this one up and let it go. We'll see whether Kingen can hard carry, much like Khan did.
The Essence Reaver first is completed. He's got his steel cap boots. Been very comfortable at this stage in the game to, I mean, all that Nara's got is the axe, right? Which is going to be nice in this particular moment, but you can see that's the most hopeful trade he can get, you know, in an isolated situation.
Yeah. Yeah, not feeling super fantastic as the Nar, but he'll still be able to get those team fights, the Nar team fights that we know exist, even if they've been very difficult to come by here in the LCK.
Yeah.
The possibility that Morgan can come back as Chovy, he wants to start this one off himself. Deft in amongst it, looking for that first kill. He does get the S-rank, 3-man shockwave though. Haymaker's good, but not enough damage to follow up. And Harmor Life are going to back away. DRX going to do the same thing as now Morgan throws down the ulti at a very strange place. Sorry, Kingen does, as Morgan had got out of there, but still, it's going to be all right. Grand Skyfall is also mistimed. DRX going to defend this outer turret comfortably.
Yeah, I think the idea with the cannon barrage there is he's going to exhaust his Mega Gnar, not going to be able to retreat. Does force a flash, because as you say, the Pantheon roam is very late. At least in this case, Morgan feels safe, but he actually doesn't have vision. This is a bit of an overextension. If the showstopper goes off, he is dead meat, but not going to happen.
Well, there's the flash pole. As we're going to get the trample stun as well. Solka, well and truly dead. And that's going to be Arthur picking up another kill for himself. Kingen coming on in. He's got barrels aplenty. He does actually do a lot of damage onto Deft. Essence Reaver now complete. And Deft is at least able to pop some projectiles and get himself out safely. Thought he might not have enough mana for that one.
That was a close call. I don't like fighting their back in this game. Very, very carefully. Very calculated roams we're seeing. And you know, I mean, it feels like the scaling advantage in terms of just raw damage output. So we're going to watch this again. Just to being aggressive. Really redeeming himself for what has been a shaky best of 3 for him. But it feels like the late game scaling in terms of damage output with the Kaisa, with you obviously having Shockwave and the Orianna damage plus Gangplank late game, feels really good for DRX. But the way that team fights work CC-wise, engage, initiation, and objective fights around that, it feels like HLE has their own set of advantages too. So there's not a black and white game where one team has to get ahead early or they just simply can't win late game. this game and the scaling that's happening, the gold advantage, is going to matter all the way through. And luckily for both teams, it is very close. So this is still a game where anything can happen.
Oh yeah, and I think now that we've got to well and truly into the mid game, it's going to be about how these Harmolife globals are going to work out, or semi-globals, I guess I should say, in comparison to what Kingan's able to offer with his cannon barrage. As Vista walks into a spear head-on, he's no coward, that's for sure. As Becker and Pyosik do show themselves here towards the top side, but there's a heroic entrance available. Oh, I love that blue trinket as Arthur shielding himself up, but still loses half of his health bar as Shockwave now is on cooldown. And that means that Harmolife feel okay taking...
Yeah, and Atlas, I think this is another one of those fights where you have really nice CC to control this Baron pit, so why not just force the Rift Herald fight on your terms? Chovy's just going to sit here in mid, collect waves, and unfortunately DRX just don't have a reasonable way to contest this, as Vista is going to eat some damage here.
Yeah, it has to actually Unbreakable Will as Bao is just walking after him. That's his tactic, as Cannon Barrage is going to come down onto Morgan and Vista, but at least they'll be able to get out. And DRX are willy-nilly throwing their ultimates around without actually getting very much for it.
Well, if he only knew where Vista was. If he only knew.
Well, Vista is going to survive this time. Only died twice this game. Wolf, I think Vista's turning it around.
6 assists, you know. He's probably pretty happy with that ratio at the moment.
Hell yeah, definitely better than his last ratio, I'll tell you that. So, not tilting this time is good old Vista, and that's great news. We do have Deft with his shield bow available, as well as a serrated Dirk, so the Samira's getting online.
I think...
We'll see whether these team fights are going to be good.
Yeah, I think that's where we're seeing Kingan build as well for his second item, because Gangplank will get the Essence Reaver first before getting his Mythic. See where he decides to go with that, but seems pretty high chance. There are other options as well, but only time will tell, as we're going to see the Rift Herald drop down here in mid. As this is a fight where you've got to be really careful as DRX, actually, because you don't have information about where Chovy is. You do not know where Vista is.
Oh, Pyosik. They tried to use the Rift Herald to bait a fight, and it didn't really work. I'm not sure exactly the thinking about that one, because it's not like it was about to time out or anything like that. Just wanted to use it in conjunction with the dragon, but just wasn't really the smartest of moves. As Chovy, okay, lying in wait, but will be able to bodyguard this dragon very effectively, and DRX have said, well, we're just going to take your mid turret if that's what you want to do. And the dragon will be taken down, turret as well. Now, will the team fight actually be successful as Morgan, Narbar in a great position, Deft dashing after King, and he has to flash to get out, but Becca not going to be so lucky. Solka with the two-man shockwave. That's definitely good, and now Vista looking to try and deliver him. Hebupole comes on in, heroic entrance gets a really beautiful knock-up, and look, I'm going to say it, Vista's redeemed himself completely. That was
really nice, really nicely played there, and they were setting up for this fight for so long that never happened because, simply put,
This is aggressive, to say the least. As Vista's over the wall, they know that he's over the wall. As Chovy goes in, three-man taunts, beautiful. There's the cannon barrage finally, but Kingan's gonna go down. Deft grabs that kill, and it was all a bait. Why? What? No, don't face check. That was a bit of a silly move, as now Pyosik gonna go in. He's gonna take down the Gnar. Arthur tries to kite it out, as Chovy will get on top of the kitty cat, and Vista will take away the kill. It is still a man advantage for Harmolife Esports, but things could have been better there, as no killer instinct available for Bao to follow up, and Arthur will survive.
This is a very sloppy fight across the board. We're going to go back to the fight previously, though, where you can see Chovy was looking for this for a long time. They didn't fight for the Drake, but they're actually able to push into this retreating DRX. And double global here, semi-global, you know, whatever you want to call it, ends up being extremely effective at these types of chases, as we do see a bit of a fail flash there, unfortunately, for Solka, but it was also a great play from Vista at the same time, and be able to secure that kill. This is going to be the Baron setup here, whereas the composition, we've talked about so many times throughout this mid-game that Harmolife Esports have a great team fighting comp with the CC they have around these objectives. So even though it was pretty ridiculous to think they could take the Baron, to try to force the fight I think is a smart choice. I think they were always planning on not getting a Baron but getting a trade up in the team fight. Doesn't go as cleanly as they planned, and DRX do deny the Baron, which is huge. But I like the idea.
Oof. No, I agree. Morgan very close to getting caught out there, but avoids the barrel slow, so he will be okay. But DRX is still able to steal away that red buff. Harmalife still not with an advantage. After that situation, I think the fight was so messy, and too many kills went on both sides, and nothing was really alleviated. These outer turrets that have been taken by DRX are really helping augment the wallets of this team, but it's still going to be a death brush for Harmalife. Thankfully, Orb is there to check. And Deft going to get tagged by the Void Seeker, but not too much more is going to happen.
Chovy side laning. They're trying to play this 1-3-1 right now because of the fact that Chovy can obviously engage semi-global from far away, and he does just that.
Speaking of which, yeah, two-man Shockwave does come in. Facebreaker down as well as Becca looking to get in position, decides to go for the Constellation Cow as Morgan able to get in there, get on top of everything, and he has the Narbar in perfect position. Kingen, not so lucky. The Gangplank, not sure what you were doing there, buddy, but in amongst a billion Harmalife members is not exactly the best place, as they do trade one.
Yeah, I was literally what I was going to say is, like, that was a bit of a weird way to flank around and engage there, almost just pushing his face into the team of Harmalife, and does go down, and he needs to survive. You know, we talked about how much damage Gangplank can put off in the late game, but he has to survive long enough in the fight to do it. He did go for that Immortal Shield Bow I was talking about earlier, but that is not enough to guarantee you just a walk-in, as we're going to watch this fight again. It was actually beautifully played from Becca, as he comes over here, has a great Facebreaker, turns things around, looks for the Showstopper on the Vista, so he can look for the pick, and then meanwhile, Kingen is like, I have Immortal Shield Bow, that means I'm immortal, right? Probably should have not have been walking around that way. Perhaps just overestimating his team's damage output and hoping that he was going to be cleanup. Did not happen that way.
No, and sometimes, you know, you press your teleport button thinking everything's going to be fine, and then it's not. And that's basically exactly what happened there, as Vista takes a pretty angry spear to the face, but just is able to clear out the vision. More wards going over the wall as Morgan, thankfully, is mini-nah, and so he's able to avoid that particular spear. And this blue buff is not exactly the one that Kingen wanted.
No.
As Harmalife are going to come over, see whether they can punish him. Now he has to get out, not going to be able to actually grab that buff. No, just another reset. What is going on?
Morgan, meanwhile.
15 seconds on the Mountain Drake.
Yeah, very scary place for Morgan to be, but there's no follow-up, there's no CC. Actually, the rest of DRX is just relegate themselves to mid-push. And as you say, the Drake is coming online here. And it looks like DRX are, again, just going to say, I can't fight this Harmalife Esports in an objective pit. I'm just going to try to 5-man this, hard shove mid, and maybe even get an inhibitor turret during that Drake. I actually really like this choice. This is, again, bold decision-making by DRX in the late game. They do not hesitate.
Yep, I like it. They might be able to actually take down this inhibitor turret as well. As Morgan's going to come on over. He has Mega Gnar, but not a lot of Narbar as the Drake does go down, but so do 2 turrets in the mid lane. And I don't know whether that's a good trade here for Harmalife, although they do have now that soul point that is so coveted. So that may make this a little bit more worthwhile, even if their map is in shambles.
Yeah, I think the trade, personally, is... I like it more for Harmalife because... Obviously, they're putting themselves on soul point, which means they can force another objective fight on their terms, which they're doing so great at. And there becomes a limit to how much DRX can just say, okay, well, I guess you guys are going to do Baron, I'll just push mid. They need to win a team fight to get an advantage out of this double turret they got for the inhibitor. Nobody can split push that. Nobody can, you know, just force that down. So, sure, they got some extra gold for it. And if they win the next team fight, it actually opens up a win condition for the game. But that feels like it's a bridge too far right now because you're just allowing Harmalife to continue to have this objective lead. And Chovy's being sneaky. We know how much he loves his flank taunts. They don't know where he is.
Oh man, this is so dangerous. DRX still don't know. It's this brush. It's the Chovy brush that he's really owned this game. Gets himself a flash, but thankfully for DRX, it's just Pyoshik without his flash now. That's the result of the man behind enemy lines.
They're just going to push for, I think, another one of these Baron setups where they try to take a fight around the pit where they're not actually planning on necessarily committing to the Baron and finishing the Baron, but the threat forces DRX to engage into them. I think that's the idea here. They have vision control.
Ow. Kingen's
He is massive.
He's really, really big boy. Has himself his serrated Dirk heading towards Collector as item number 3. It's exactly the build that Khan went for in the Gangplank debut. Yeah, this is also about what happened when Khan was playing it as well. Lots of damage with these barrels.
Don't want to forget about Chovy's ability to grand entrance to flank here, have a big taunt. So, you know, for DRX, you get this wave push. You want to try to go in and control that Baron vision, but it's just a bit too risky right now. Meanwhile, Solka trying to get any farm he can in the side lane, got his Archangel's finished. But otherwise, still a whole item away from where he'd like to be towards this late game.
Actually skipping something like the Banshee's Veil that I think Chovy went for as item number 2, and instead wants to hit the damage spike as quickly as possible. I do respect that, understanding that, you know, they just have to be able to get these shockwaves to work out well. Humble Life have so far been able to utilize these globals well in these team fights, but I think slowly but surely DRX are just going to have so much damage and so much maneuverability that it's going to get more and more difficult for Hanwha Life to get work done.
Yeah. Buying.
Samira still exists though, and is still dangerous.
As you mentioned the damage, he buys 2 amp tomes when he goes back with the extra wave he got in the top lane, the extra gold he had. He's just looking for mass damage. I think what DRX is hoping for is just one team fight win and push to win the game, because they have that mid inhibitor open. It's just going to be a one and done. We get a team wipe, get an ace, try to fight where before they can set up for Baron, before they have the fight on their terms. And just making sure they don't let Chovy flank, I think, is the name of the game here. They're playing so passively around that.
All right, Vista goes for the flash once again, gets the flash out from Bao, which is good news, but the Grand Skyfall onto Solka, he goes golden as well. It's like a Messiah play, but on a Pantheon. Flashes out now as well as now Kingin in trouble once again as the Gangplank with the flank, and it's not what they want. Kyoshik also going to die as Becca is going to be the one to spare the blushes of his top laner. And Kingin, he lanes so well, but what is he doing in these positions?
Yeah, he's just...
Oh, it's a disaster.
He's just always putting himself in dangerous spots, and they lost Kyoshik as well on the side. Chovy ends up getting the solo kill there on the edge as he tried to buy some time.
Vista, okay, they're going to dive onto Kingin here. Vista goes into his stopwatch. Beautifully done. The Pantheon's going to fall down, but Deft, he's managed to find himself some resets, and that is going to be the double kill. Chovy goes golden. Solka's going to kill him. And Hanwha Life now find themselves with only one opposition left in the team fight. Becca has respawned, but is still back in that fountain as 40 seconds until this Mountain Drake. And Hanwha Life are going to go for a reset and look to try and get that salt point.
This is actually...
Or that Dragon Soul.
This is actually really good for Hanwha Life, but it could have been way better. As we do see again, question marks on where Kyoshik is in this fight. Like you were play-by-playing the real important action on the other side is Kyoshik just kind of got caught and stuck in a Baron pit. He dies, and Chovy's able to rejoin the fight full health, as Kingin just can't get anything done here. But the more important aspect of this is that DRX are able to trade this back so that they can't get Baron. So Hanwha Life don't actually finish the Baron there. The timings of the death timers mean that they can't actually get that Mountain Soul either. So actually this part of the fight where you see the trade back here, Bao does a decent amount of damage, Sulky is able to kill Chovy, ends up being a position where Hanwha Life is like, I won the fight, but I can't do anything else. They didn't even get Drake priority at the beginning of this fight that's starting up now, but they were able to wrestle it away.
Oh, Chovy. Once again, looking for flanks as Kingin not going to be able to find that barrel that could have been actually very pivotal in this situation. Now it's going to be a 50-50 as we've got Kyoshik in position. Can he save the soul is the question. He may not be able to as Becca goes for the hero play, but he's not able to get it done. Now Mountain Soul comes in, and Samira's looking to clean up all the kills. Kingin, once again, he's just not in a great position. As Bao, he's going to get hunted by Morgan, thrown into the wall. Deft grabs his 3rd kill of the team fight. Bao's just holding on to position, and that will be the ace as Hanwha Life find the game after this team fight.
The full ace here means that they're able to have full control of the map. I don't think they can end at this stage because, sure, yeah, I mean, the game is very likely theirs. They got the 3rd Mountain Drake in a row into a Mountain Soul. But all the inner turrets are up, so it's going to take them some time to finish it. But taking this fight, actually, for DRX feels foolish. They didn't have Drake positional advantage. You're going into a team that has so much CC. You have the best Galio player in the world in Chovy, who's going to have a great fight, of course. Ends up getting a nice little engage here. Now, in live, you can see they do take the turret. or excuse me, the Baron, but the turrets prevent them from ending the game immediately. But what they could do now, obviously, is set up for a big push. And, you know, the recipe for your game win, when you're this far ahead, you have this much of a lead, and a Baron, is to just simply eventually kill the turrets on the map and push towards the Nexus. But DRX,
yeah.
like, they're one team fight away at this stage of the game, because we're breaking into where that team fight's going to be. All this thought.
Well, that's a lot of teleports, Wolf, as Kingin, he's getting taken down to about half health. Morgan really feeling himself at this stage as the globals have all been expended, as there is a Gnar into the wall. Becca's going to be missed by the wallop, though, and Kingin avoided it completely. And now Morgan's looking a little bit silly at this stage of the fight. Likely to be taken down, but no, goes into his stopwatch. Becca does the same, but he's the one that's going to be dying his death, diving in, and will be able to pick up a double kill off the back of Morgan, throwing himself at the enemy.
Well, that's the game for sure. You know, it looked like it was going to be the game almost, you know, 85%, 90%, and then DRX get caught outside of their base. You know, it's tough to defend against a Baron. You got to try to make a play, you got to try to make a pick, but now it is just simply all she wrote here. Big win here for Hanwha Life Esports, a very competitive back-to-back, back-and-forth series, but DRX aren't able to clutch it out in the end.
Yeah, not quite able to do it. Nexus will go down. Congratulations to Hanwha Life Esports for picking up their first victory here in the LCK for 2021.